it doesn't give me any pleasure to put out videos like this one where I defend the rights of people like Paul Nealon or people like Louis Farrakhan or the BDS movement for freedom of speech. But if you don't, if you say that freedom of speech is limited to points of view that you like, then that opens it up down the road for other people to impose the same sort of standard on you when they get into power. And why, why am I talking about this right now? Well, I haven't been affected as much as some of you by the YouTube censorship or other similar, social media platforms that have infringed on people's First Amendment rights. But I've talked to plenty of people who do, even people that are within certain circles that I associate with. That would include people who, for example, may be pro-Israel. That includes people who are anti-war. That includes people who are Republicans. Includes people who are progressives. Includes people who oppose all of those things. And yesterday I was having that conversation with Tariq, and I'm about to have another conversation with Fred, who's coming up. And I'm seeing in many ways there's this willingness on the part of people to say, well, these beliefs of the people that are on the other side, they're so dangerous that we're on the verge of some sort of popular, I'd call it, maybe an upheaval, social collapse, where because they have so much freedom, they will basically take over society and will become persecuted, and our rights will be infringed upon. Notice that the more censorship gets imposed by Facebook, Google, and the other major tech companies, the more people flock to some of these very people that are called to danger by the people calling for the censorship. I was asking for some people on one of the Paul Nealon posts a few days ago, I think, or it was yesterday. I was asking for them to explain. They were trying to use the example of the security threats against the JCCs, which turned out to be a hoax. They were trying to say, well, it shows that it's all, that's the way that the Jews act, and they fake everything, and it's all a plot that they use in order to make us, and in their case, they mean the whites, to make them look bad. Unfortunately, they left out a very key detail. The reason that these people got exposed was because the Israeli police handed over the information about the hoaxer to the FBI. So how exactly does that plot work? How does this major international conspiracy work? Well, when you when you censor people, when you make them believe that that their opinions, and their opinions I don't agree with, that these are actual bona fide anti-Jew people. When you make them believe that they can't express what they want, then they almost use it as a taboo, as this punk rock resistance to the establishment. And you basically validate a lot of what they're saying. They are thriving on the belief among other people that they are the persecuted part of the body public. And believe it or not, it's very easy for people who once thought that white supremacists are abhorrent. It's very easy for people to suddenly swing in that direction. Chris Cantwell, for example, somebody who used to be a libertarian, eventually drifted into the far right, the white supremacist, literally a self-admitted white supremacist mode. It's unfortunate. Paul Nealon was baited into it. I talked about him a couple times. Of course, David Duke, I don't think he was forced to become a white supremacist. But, the answer to that has never been to censor people. The Supreme Court ruled, and I'll be writing more about this, in 1977, Skokie versus the NPSA or NSPA decision. I think it's the NSPA versus Village of Skokie decision. They ruled that even offensive speech and even displaying the swastika is protected under the First Amendment. and people were panicking. They were thinking, well, if these people are allowed to march, then it's going to create the basis for this massive neo-Nazi movement to build up and take over the country. This was in 1977. Well, look at the results. Over the years, that never really happened. If that was the truth, that would have probably happened sometime, not long after that. But the people of that generation who were, going to march on Skokie in the name of National Socialism in the U.S., they came and went. That movement fell apart. Other white supremacists and other, by the way, other radical movements of non-white extraction, such as the Nation of Islam, have come and established themselves and become, kind of faded into the landscape of American politics. And meanwhile, the majority of Americans have not become more intolerant and hateful towards people that they don't know and who are of other religions. So, I think we're going to have an interesting discussion with Fred today. Probably a lot of differences of opinion. Me and him coming from very different angles on some of the same issues. There's a couple issues we'll agree with. I think the majority we won't. But ultimately, I hope that you will realize, as I'll try to, talk with Fred about it, that censorship of offensive speech does not lead to a more civil society. And that's about it. So please tune in, join, share, subscribe, and like these videos.